All right, let's dive in. We've got this really fascinating book today, A Strange Fruit, a Theopoetics of Slavery in Amerika.
Yeah.
And it's going to take us through the relationship between people of color and religion and, well, the trauma of slavery in Amerika,
Right.
all through this this lens of theopoetics, which I don't know about you, but
It's not exactly a household term.
yeah, not something you hear every day, but it
Definitely some powerful insights in store.
yeah, definitely. And speaking of powerful, I mean that title, Strange Fruit, just hits you right away.
Right.
I mean, you think of the song, the Billie Holiday song.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So much weight to that.
Yeah, so much weight. But then the author uses that image, that strange fruit image, to actually symbolize something bigger, something deeper. The suffering of people of color
Through a colonized religion.
Yeah. So, I mean, right off the bat, that piqued my interest. So I guess for me, the big question is like, how does theopoetics fit into all this? How does that help us understand all of that?
Well, theopoetics basically mixes these theological ideas with poetic expression.
Okay.
So it's kind of a way to, tap into the emotional and spiritual sides of all of this.
So it's not just like the facts and figures of history.
Yeah. It's more like, delving into the feelings, the lasting impact that this history has had.
Okay, so more like understanding the human cost of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to the dedication, which I think is pretty important.
Okay, how so?
Well, because it sets the stage for the whole book. It's all about reclaiming identity and using the past to create a better future.
Right.
So you can see how the author is going to use theopoetics to unpack all these heavier themes.
I'm starting to get it. Yeah. So it's like theopoetics adds this whole other dimension to the analysis.
Yeah.
So could you give me an example, like a concrete example from the book, maybe? Something that really shows how theopoetics works in action.
Oh, absolutely. There's this one part where the author describes the experience of enslaved Africans coming to America. Now, typical history book might just give you the facts, right?
Dates, the ships. All
exactly. But the author, they take it further.
Yeah, wow.
They use all this imagery, all this emotionally charged language to really make you feel the dehumanization, the fear, the despair. It's like through this poetic lens, you really grasp the horror of it all.
So it's like a way to bridge the gap between the past and the present, to make us feel the weight of it, even now.
Exactly. And the book also, it traces how this trauma, how it was kept alive through this really warped version of Christianity.
Right. To control people.
Yes.
Like the slave Bible we talked about earlier. Just crazy how they took out scriptures about liberation.
Yeah. And just left in passages about obedience and
being subservient.
Yeah.
It's just so disturbing,
It's a reminder of how religion, how it can be used to serve power structures,
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I guess that manipulation, that's kind of at the core of what the author is calling colonized religion, right? Yeah.
They really highlight this shift from indentured servitude to chattel slavery back in 1660 when they made these laws specifically targeting people of color for permanent enslavement. So it wasn't just about economics and labor anymore. It was about creating a hierarchy based on race.
Wow.
And then reinforcing that with religion.
It's just chilling, how that shift happened and how it was used to justify it all.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned this quote from Kayem Uriel Nawage's White Poison that really hit the author.
Oh, yeah.
What was it again?
It said, "When colonizers came to Africa, we had the land and they had the Bible. They taught us to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened them, the colonizers had our lands and we had the Bible."
Wow.
It's
a lot to unpack there.
It is.
But it really captures how colonization, how it can disguise itself as religious kindness.
Oh God, it's about exploitation.
Yeah, it's a powerful image. Losing your land, losing your freedom, but holding on to the very thing that was used to justify it all.
And then, the book, it looks at how that system, how it was meant to just break spirits, especially through psychological tactics, like in the Willie Lynch letter. And now there are questions about whether that letter is real or not, but the tactics, they're just chilling.
Yeah.
Whether it's a real document or not, it's a representation of how people tried to manipulate and control enslaved people,
It's hard to wrap your head around that kind of calculated cruelty. But I guess, that leads to a really important point. Even if someone escaped the physical chains, those scars.
It's mental and emotional scars.
Yeah, those could stick around.
And that's where religious trauma comes in. The book talks about, whether it's an official diagnosis or not.
Right.
Religious trauma syndrome shows that, religious abuse, religious control, indoctrination, that stuff can really hurt people.
It's not just a thing of the past either.
Right. It's still happening today.
Yeah. Makes you wonder how many people are carrying those wounds, even in places that should be safe.
The book talks about this pastor in Harlem who started addressing religious trauma in their congregation.
Oh, wow.
And, it shows that these wounds, they can be hidden even in communities that should be about healing and support.
So it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your background is, what your current, beliefs are.
Yeah.
It's a universal experience. It needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And the author, they actually share their own experiences with religious trauma, like that story about being punished by having to kneel on rice.
Oh, yeah. That's a powerful image.
Yeah, and it just shows you how damaging those practices can be.
Especially to a child.
Exactly. And, it shows the lasting psychological effects of it all, especially when it's all mixed up with oppression and control.
So it's not just the individual, but the whole community that's affected by this colonized religion. But the book, it goes even deeper, right? It goes into this whole idea of inherited trauma.
Right.
How these beliefs and practices, how they just get passed down through the generations, and how they still impact people, even if they've left organized religion.
Yeah, it's tough to grasp. Because it's not always something you're aware of.
Right.
It's just like woven into families, communities, even our culture, our understanding of who we are.
So how do we even begin to separate what's ours from what's been, imposed on us through generations of this?
Well, that's where the author brings up this really powerful idea. It might be unsettling, but it's called the colonizer within.
Oh, wow.
Basically, it's this figure that represents internalized oppression. So it's the voice of self-doubt, the shame, accepting those limiting beliefs, and it all comes from those colonial power structures,
Okay, I'm with you. Can you break that down a little more?
So imagine, you've rejected those systems of oppression, right?
Yeah.
But there's still this little voice, whispering in your ear.
Okay.
You're not good enough. You're not worthy. You can't do it.
Oh, wow.
That's the colonizer within, right? And it can look like a lot of things, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, always needing someone else to tell you you're okay.
It's almost like carrying a piece of that system inside you, even while you're fighting against it on the outside.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the book, it uses these really vivid descriptions, to bring it to life. There's a line that says, "It speaks with an authoritative voice, a language inherited from centuries past. Smooth, persuasive, authoritative."
It's like a phantom limb almost. Like even when the actual structure of oppression is gone, you still feel it. You still have those responses.
And the author, they're very clear that this isn't about blame or shame. It's about awareness.
Okay.
It's about realizing that we all, we kind of soak up societal norms and power dynamics to some degree.
So we need to look inward, and try to spot those subtle ways that the colonized within might be holding us back.
Yeah.
But the book doesn't just point that out and leave us there. Right? There's a message of hope and healing.
Absolutely. Recognizing the colonizer within, that's just step one. The real work is decolonizing ourselves.
Okay. I'm really interested to hear more about that. What does that actually mean?
Well, it's an ongoing process, peeling back those layers of internalized oppression and getting to our true selves, Yeah.
So how do we actually do that? What are those steps, to peeling back those layers and getting back to ourselves?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to dive into next time.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll explore, what it means to to decolonize your spirituality.
Okay.
And how to find those paths to healing
Yeah.
that are personal and empowering.
Okay. I'm ready for part 2 then. So everyone stay tuned.